Hey guys, today we are discussing whether or not Karl Jobst should look seriously at declaring bankruptcy. Now, bankruptcy is always a option on the table if you lose a major lawsuit and you do not have the money to pay. Bankruptcy in Australia is not as bad as many people would make it out to be. I believe it only lasts 3 years and 1 day, and then after that, you're off to the races again. So let's cover bankruptcy, but let's also show that it does seem that Karl Jobst, at least in his Discord channel, has mentioned it as an option. He's posted this "I declare bankruptcy" very common office meme. This is from a guy who was concerned about whether or not Billy Mitchell would pay him after he won. People did ask questions, hey, Karl, you're from Australia. Would a U.S. court really make Billy Mitchell pay you? And then he went on to details about, oh, if Billy didn't pay me, he wouldn't look like a great business person. And all what Karl said is true. So there is a conversation where he is pretty certain that Billy Mitchell will pay him, or if Billy Mitchell was not able to pay him, it would look bad for Billy Mitchell. Now, is the same can be said for Karl Jobst? Not really, because Karl Jobst isn't known as a business person or businessman or whatever pronouns you want to use. He's just, the last time he had a business, it was a ebook business on how to talk to women. And that did not really take off. This is bankruptcy. So bankruptcy does not release you from all debts. Most unsecured debts are covered in bankruptcy. That means you no longer have to repay those debts. There are some exceptions. Bankruptcy, all this is in Australia. So none of this would be applied for the US. Bankruptcy normally lasts 3 years and 1 day from the day we accept your bankruptcy forms. And what is the difference between unsecured debts, right? And they have a list of items that would be unsecured debt, one of which would be legal fees, or not legal fees, legal damages. Unsecured debt. This table shows different types of unsecured debt are treated in bankruptcy or a debt agreement. An unsecured debt is not tied to a specific property like a house, or secured debt would be a house. Types of unsecured debt: court-ordered restitution amounts. Can the creditor demand payment? No. If I go bankrupt? No. Will I still have to pay the debt after my bankruptcy ends? No. If the amount is fixed. So let me go back to that slide and read it to you. Can the creditor continue to demand payment if I go bankrupt? No. Will I still have to pay the debt after my bankruptcy ends? No, if the amount was fixed before you became bankrupt. Will the debt be included in my debt agreement if I enter into a debt agreement? Yes, if the amount was fixed before you entered into a debt agreement. No, if it was not fixed. Can the creditor continue to demand payment if I enter into a debt agreement? No. If the amount was fixed before you entered into a debt agreement. Yes, if it was not fixed. Will I still have to pay the debt after my debt agreement if I enter into a debt agreement? No. If the amount was fixed before you entered into a debt agreement? Yes, if it was not fixed. So essentially, no, yes, no. So the only time the debt will be included in my debt agreement is if you entered a debt agreement and if the amount is fixed before you entered into the debt agreement, and no, if it is not fixed. So a debt agreement would have to be entered. What happens is your creditors come into the bank and they can all say, hey, you have this asset. Your creditor at this point in time would be Billy Mitchell. He has a large defamation settlement or verdict against you. He's going to claim, hey, I want to get paid on this. Pay me, please. And then Karl will have to go to bankruptcy court and say, I don't have the money to pay it. And then a debt settlement agreement will be made. So Karl would have to then go to court yet again, and bankruptcy attorneys, as you can probably figure out, is not cheap. In fact, I do not remember this, but I'm pretty sure that Karl's lawyer may be a bankruptcy attorney as well. He is a man of many skills. Let me double check if Michael DeWard is a bankruptcy specialist. Not now. So I'm Mary Gleason Chambers. So Michael DeWard, areas of practice: administration law, appellate. Oh, so that's appealing, whether he does that. Arbitration, mediation, evaluation. He did not do arbitration or mediation very well, if at all, in the Karl Jobst or Billy Mitchell versus Karl Jobst case. Banking and finance, building and construction, bankruptcy, and insolvency. So correct. As I suspected, this man of many expertises at such a young age is also a expert in bankruptcy and insolvency. So that's something else that he would offer in addition to commercial, contract, defamation, equity, inquest, commissions of inquest, and statutory tribunals, property, and tort. So this young man, since 2011, has been just cranking out the areas of practice. So yes, he could, and this might be why the Michael DeWard figure probably doesn't want to appeal it, because they're just going to go bankrupt it. So that is their biggest leverage. So when we talk about leverage, if Karl says, hey, I'm going to bankruptcy, that's actually, unless you reduce the amount of money I owe, that's a very, very strong piece of leverage, because Billy Mitchell would like to get his money back, but he knows that in bankruptcy court, you would be lucky to get 10 cents on the dollar in bankruptcy court. There's a reason that it's called bankruptcy court. And in Australia, it does not look too bad. So you can able to keep ordinary household goods, tools to set up an amount used to earn an income, and vehicle. So you can still have a vehicle, you can still have a home, you can, all this stuff you can still have. If you're involved in any legal action, you need to inform the court that that's what you're going to do. Bankruptcy normally lasts for 3 days, 3 years, and 1 day from the day we accept your bankruptcy forms. So bankruptcy may be not the worst option for Karl Jobst, to be quite frank. If the amount really is $1.8 million, $700,000 of his own legal fees, $700,000 plus of Billy Mitchell's legal fees, and then the remaining $400,000, which is damages plus interest, $1.8 million would be the type of amount that you would seek bankruptcy in. Now, that being said, you do need to hire a bankruptcy lawyer, and Michael DeWard, the guy who they paid $700,000 to, and plus legal team, again, it's a legal team, he would probably be more than ready. Like, the lawyer is always going to make the money. I hope you guys understand that all paths end up with the lawyer getting even more money. Should they appeal, the time to appeal has passed. Okay, there is no more time to appeal, except if there is a exceptional case where it's a very special thing. Is this case special? I think it is. I think this case is quite special. So even though the 28 days that you have to appeal is well over, we are well past that point in time, it may be special enough where they do allow an appeal even later. That being said, we know this case is exceptional because the verdict should have came down 90 days after the trial ended. It didn't. It took almost twice as long for the verdict to come out. So that's why I think there is still hope for an appeal. Now, would Karl Jobst win the appeal? I do not know. I do not think so, but we would have to look into why he's appealing, the exact reasons. Now, as for here, and the bankruptcy thing, yeah, it's basically another trial. It's a trial with a judge. It's a trial with your creditors, Billy Mitchell being probably one of your only creditors here, maybe the mortgage. I'm not positive about Karl Jobst's personal finances, like a student loans or something like that. I don't think he has any of those loans at the age of 39. But it would mainly be, let's be all serious. It would be mainly the guy with the 1.8 million, or the guy seeking his legal fees and the $400,000 in damages. The other wrinkle here that people don't realize is the Notch individual, the billionaire who had promised to pay for Karl Jobs' legal fees. He could easily write a check and make this all go away, right? So he could write a check today for the $700,000 in damages or in legal fees Billy Mitchell paid for, and the $400,000, and even make the legal fees from Karl Jobs' own side. Like, if Notch and him are that close, and it does seem like even today Notch has been defending Karl Jobs as one of the good guys, he just writes a check and it all goes away. You don't need to be in bankruptcy court for that long. And bankruptcy court isn't really fun. Again, this bankruptcy is not a fun experience. You might be like, how do you know about bankruptcy? In my last year at William & Mary Law School, when I was a free L, so that's when I was ready to take the bar exam, I externed, my last semester, I externed with a law firm that does bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a lot of drama. It's a lot of vendors coming at you. It's a lot of people who want to get paid, realizing they're not going to get paid. So there is a lot of reputational damage that happens to you, where, I mean, would this prevent Gerard from suing Karl? I think it would do the opposite. People understand that Karl doesn't have any money to defend himself, right? Unless, again, Notch comes in. And a very weird, so typically you don't have a billionaire backing you in this way that will pay for your legal fees and your legal defense. So that's, again, take that wrinkle out of it, because that makes it so much more complicated to explain the bankruptcy proceeding, because that's so atypical of people who go to bankruptcy. People who go to bankruptcy don't have billionaire friends willing to write a check, right, for $300,000, according to Karl Jobs. The other really surprising part about bankruptcy in Australia is it's not nearly as bad as it is in the US. Bankruptcy in the US is relatively bad, especially if you're like a small business owner or something like that. It would really hamper your ability to get more clients, your ability to, people have bankrupt in the US, and it's not something that many people are ashamed of, but it is something where people just don't want to deal. I actually covered the bankruptcy of a card game on my other channel called MetaZoo. That card game just got out of bankruptcy maybe a year ago, and now it's like under a different name. But no game store that carried the old MetaZoo wants to carry the new MetaZoo because they will burn so badly. They had a lot of junk. A lot of the players, had pre-orders, which means they paid money in advance for products they never received. There were players that won a $50,000 tournament, and he still has, to my knowledge, never been paid because that company has gone bankrupt. The company did not pay Sanrio, the product license holders of Hello Kitty, so that was very bad. There was a whole list of very, very relevant people that were not paid, and that's the idea of bankruptcy. So if Karl Jobs declares bankruptcy, mainly against Billy Mitchell would then have the ability to say, hey, I bankrupt Karl Jobs, which probably, maybe that's what needs to happen here, is that Karl will have to lose all his reputation to not pay the judgment. And you might be like, oh, Karl stands, or they don't care about bankruptcy, they just want to get back at Billy Mitchell. I would say this, if you are in a family situation, and bankruptcy has a lot of impact on family. That's why one of the things they were talking about is family law, because many times before bankruptcy, there's a divorce or leaving, because then that person will get to keep some of their assets. It's a sad situation when bankruptcy is your only out, but it's definitely something that Billy Mitchell has forced Karl Jobs to consider based on how much money is owed to him. If the facts are true, if what Karl was saying in his Discord is true, just on the Billy Mitchell side, so not talking about Karl's own legal fees, it is $400,000 plus at least $700,000. Karl Jobs calls Billy Mitchell's legal fees excessive. So 700 plus, could be 800, could be 900. That is a substantial amount of money that Billy Mitchell is owed by Karl Jobs. if they cannot reach a debt settlement agreement, then bankruptcy would, and even after bankruptcy is over, it would erase this type of debt. Now, so in other news, I don't really see what options Karl Jobst truly has. It is a brutal option, right? Because now people will know that you bankrupt, and online people will make fun of you as they make fun of other people who are bankrupt. I can, again, have a long list of people, but again, sometimes in the US at least, people wear the bankruptcy as a sign of pride. The other guy I covered, $5.6 million in debt. He stole that much money in Rolexes. Anthony Farrar. He actually called us from jail for many, many weeks until the Reddit got a hold of my personal information and started blasting. And then I didn't want to do that no more. This was a very interesting discussion about, like, how having to pay back people. It's called restitution in that particular case, because it's criminal. It's called restitution, and how he was going to pay back people. Your reputation is everything. Your reputation as a human being, as someone, and bankruptcy, in my opinion, it's not for everybody. Like, it's would I want to do business? Would I front you money if you've already bankrupt yourself? It depends, right? It depends on our relationship, but I would definitely be more wary of working with you even after 3 years has been over. When you have a large amount of money and you cannot make this large amount of money, then you just go through hell living for 3 years and 1 day. But after that time has passed, you're good to go. You are good to go. I do believe that Karl, if he chooses this route, I hope he's transparent, because I will be able to get hold of the legal documents anyway, and the court will comb through your finances. Another case that we covered was Mark's Cards. He was a sports card store, and what happened was he had paid his wife, he had paid his brother, he had paid his brother's wife, and his brother's wife's friend, which again was kind of a weird relationship. You might think that was a mistress type of deal going on based on what they paid her, and that's why they bankrupt. They basically took over $2 million in grading fees. The way that grading fees work is you're supposed to put an escrow and then pay when the grading fees come up, but they spent it all, and they spent it on their own salaries. So the very disturbing things can be made public in bankruptcy proceedings, because at least in the US, all those documents are public, and we will get to know a lot more about Karl Jobst's personal finances and what he owns, what he doesn't own, what he makes. So if you guys want to know what Karl Jobst makes per sponsorship, as each sponsor would pay him, they would have to show that. And then they would also have to show what his AdSense is and so on, which obviously Karl has kept private since he began YouTubing. And this would then again reveal a kind of weird thing where Karl may be getting paid a lot by some really nefarious sponsors. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Bye, guys.